All right, everyone, we're going to get ready to get started. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming out on this lovely and wonderful Saturday afternoon. I know that there's plenty of things we could have been doing today, whether it's errands or just staying home and relaxing from the long week, but you chose to come out today and be a part of our event. I'm grateful for it, and so thank you and welcome for coming to our event on today, which is titled, Is Your House in Order? I want to make sure that by the end of this workshop that you ponder upon that question, because it's something that we should not take very lightly. We live in times where they're very uncertain and unpredictable, whether from a political standpoint or wars or rumors of war, so many things that's going on, pandemics that we're still trying to figure it out, and it just continues to progressively get worse, worse, and worse, and we don't know what tomorrow holds. And if you're not ready, it can leave you in a really bad situation. Okay? So the question I want you to think about, is your house in order? This is an event about estate planning and life insurance. How many people know that those are the two paths to create fast and an easier path towards generational wealth? Anybody know that? Yeah, absolutely. So this is imperative that we understand what is it that we're really talking about. So we're going to first begin by opening up with a word of prayer, because I believe that we should begin without inviting God to be a part of it. And so we're going to ask one of our brothers, our brother Gibson, to open up in a word of prayer before we begin.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Part of getting your house in order is, I believe, firmly in prayer. So let's go to the throne of grace. Father God, we thank you for this day, for this is the day that you have made. Although we come celebrating you, we ask, oh Father God, for your presence here in this workshop. We pray, oh Lord, that you continue to watch over us, lead, guide, direct us. Lord, give us strength when we are weak. And we pray, oh Father God, for each family represented here this afternoon. We pray for our presenters, oh Father God. We ask, oh Father God, that you give them the strength, the courage, and ability to bring forth whatever they have for us in terms of information regarding, oh Father God, our lives, oh God, and generational wealth. And we pray, oh Lord, that you would continue to abide with us and give us your peace, your love, your wisdom, and understanding. These are all the blessings we do praise in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
To begin, my name is Donnell Buggs. I am the Director of Bigger and Better Business for Kappa Epsilon Sigma Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity. For those who may or may not know, Bigger and Better Business is one of our first national programs. It began back in December of 1924. The main focus of Bigger and Better Business was really to encourage and to support black businesses. Over the years, it evolved where we adopted other initiatives, some being adopted business where we would choose a black-owned business, and we encourage the people in our chapter and the community to patronize and support those businesses. But over a period of time after that, we also created what we call Project C back in 1980. The C represents Sigma Economic Empowerment and Development. And its primary focus for Project C is to educate the community on financial literacy and home ownership. So today we're going to be looking more at the financial literacy aspect of it as we talk about estate planning, wills, trusts, and also life insurance. Today we have two phenomenal guest speakers with us, which I'm going to introduce. The first person I'm going to introduce is Rhonda Williams Austin. She's going to be talking to us. Great way to encourage our speakers. So So Ms. Williams received her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Virginia and was awarded the Juris Doctorate from Howard University School of Law.
You know.
Used in the house, all right. Currently, she is pursuing her LLM in taxation at Georgetown University Law Center. She is the proud mother of Brianna Alston, and she resides in Burlington County. I'm going to see her at the back there. Ms. Williams Alston is a licensed attorney in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and is also admitted to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court. She is truly a public servant, having held many legal administrative positions with the state of New Jersey, including serving as a Deputy Attorney General, the Director of the Equal Employment Division and Ethics Unit for the New Jersey Department of Corrections, the Compliance and Safety Director for the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission, just to name a few. Her civic and community activities included serving as president and board member of the Association of Black Women Lawyers of New Jersey, affirmative action officer, and vice president of the American Civil Liberties Union in New Jersey. She's also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and the Links Incorporated. Inclusive in her many activities, Rhonda is a public speaker and workshop facilitator, having served as keynote speaker and mistress of ceremonies for various organizations. As a way of paying it forward, Ms. Alston is an adjunct professor and mentors junior attorneys and young people in high school, college, law school, and medical school. She is now a trustee here at Tabernacle Baptist Church. Ms. Williams Alston, Ms. Alston believes that each of us should give a little so that those who follow will have even better opportunities to pursue their dreams. She truly aspires to live the words in one of her favorite hymns, quote unquote, "If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain." Ms. Williams also is going to be talking to us on estate planning, wills, and trusts. Our next speaker will be talking to us about life insurance. Her name is Kenesha Presley Smith.
Woo! Who you just met? Way back to the beginning.
Kenesha holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in mathematics. She is a wife, mother, licensed financial consultant, life insurance agent, real estate agent, certified financial educator, and the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Striving to Thrive. This nonprofit organization's focus is on educating undeserved communities on financial literacy. Kenesha has been providing services for over 13 years. She has assisted individuals and businesses achieve their financial goals through a hands-on, no-pressure, comprehensive approach. So we have some great speakers, and you guys are in for a treat today. So I hope you have your notebooks, your pens, and everything ready to receive some gems, because I feel like we're going to be blessed today with a lot of helpful information that's going to transform lives and future generations. So without further ado, let's just put our hands together for our speakers. Let us welcome our first speaker, which is Ms. Williams Alston.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I thank you for that full introduction. Can you all hear me in the back? Okay. I know you can all hear me except for Beverly Jackson, but everyone else can hear me. Thank you for that introduction. But of all the things that were stated, there are two things that are most important to me, and two titles that I hold dearly. One is being a child of God, and the other is being mother to Brianna Alston. And one of the reasons I want to highlight being mother to Brianna, or being a mother, being a parent, when we're here today talking about generational wealth, the question is not what's going to happen to us today, but the question is what's going to happen to our families down the line, down the years. How many of you went to college and had student loans? Lots and lots of student loans. How many of you know that there were people who were sitting right next to you who didn't have student loans to pay? And you know why they didn't have student loans to pay? Because they had generational wealth. Generational wealth is a term that we throw around, but sometimes we don't understand exactly what it means. Now, this summer, we learned that the Supreme Court overturned the affirmative action laws, stating that you couldn't use preferential treatment based on color and other demographics to allow people to attend college, right? They didn't turn over the legacy rule. Now, when I went to the University of Virginia, if your mother and your father donated enough money, and they had a meeting with the president of the university, he would open up his drawer, take out a piece of paper, and handwrite your letter of admission to the University of Virginia. That's generational wealth, because they couldn't make that donation based off of one generation's wealth, but it's from the generations before. My school started off as a college for the children of large plantation owners who would send their sons to the University of Virginia along with, they couldn't take their slaves with them, but they were able to rent the slaves when they got to UVA to carry their books, to do their laundry, etc. They were coming there off of the wealth of their parents. Then when others started coming, they didn't have that same kind of wealth, but they were then able to go to school, and that's when the student loans started coming in. Now, I technically retired from the state of New Jersey earlier this year, and I was talking to one of my colleagues who also had been with the state of New Jersey for 35 years. And she was so excited to tell me that she was able to get rid of her student loans. And I was like, well, you should have gotten rid of them, a while ago. But she was forgiven because with the state of New Jersey, if you've worked for them for 10 years, your student loans are forgiven. But she had worked for the state of New Jersey for 35 years, and then she became eligible in those last 10 years because she had refinanced her student loans twice. And this was a woman whose daughter was in graduate school, so she and her husband were paying tuition so that the daughter didn't have to have a student loan while she was still financing her own student loans. So here she is, as we were talking earlier, a seasoned woman with student loans, but blessed because she worked for the state in this particular case, and her loans were forgiven. And I can personally remember coming out of college and law school and starting my family, and my husband and I would sit down and do the bills, and my student loans were more than the mortgage. Now, how can you build generational wealth when you're paying these exorbitant student loans? And I couldn't understand why other people were getting ahead, if you will, financially, because what I started to learn were my colleagues were buying homes in these very nice, well-established neighborhoods, and I'm saying we're both working the same job, our spouses were working the same type of a job. Why is it was such a struggle for me to get to where they were? A, I had student loans, and B, their parents were taking out second mortgages, selling that third or fourth home that they didn't need because they only bought the home to do what? Finance their children's college education and to get them started in that first home. So then you'll say, okay, well, everybody can't take out a mortgage on their houses. It's the way you think. The other people I met, they were the support staff at the different places I worked. And when their children got married, there was a difference when you went to those weddings. Now, they're our weddings. When I say our, you can paint any picture you want. People came with these beautiful wrapped gifts. They were gorgeous. And put them on the table, and then after the wedding, you open up that fifth toaster or that beautiful pot that was on sale at Macy's the day you got married. My support staff, nobody brought a present wrapped up in a box. Because the goal was that the money that was made at the wedding was the down payment on the first house. It's a matter of thinking, because everybody knows to have generational wealth, you have to have a piece of the pie. Having a piece of the pie is what? Owning real estate or having some type of money that you can get to when you need it to avoid having to get a loan or to use it as a collateral that does not touch your primary income but can be used for something else. So I just wanted to give an example. When I became debt-free of my student loans, it was a joyous occasion. I don't know if you all heard me shouting every now and then, it still comes out. I was just thrilled. And what it did, it freed me up to be able to pursue things that I wanted to do. I had to put certain trips on hold. So when we think about generational wealth, when I graduated from high school, a few of the kids in my high school class, you know what they did? They took a gap year. I don't know any black people who took a gap year. Now, if you all know them, introduce them to me, but I didn't know them. I didn't even know what a gap year was. But they took a gap year so they could backpack across Europe and that they could pursue some of their interests. Now, if I told my father, Daddy, I'm gonna take a gap year, I may have had a gap somewhere. But let's get down to serious business. I asked earlier while we were meandering about before the presentation, how many of you are alive? Can I have a show of hands? Who's all alive in here? Every hand should go up. Even yours in the back. Every hand should go up. Okay. And we're talking about wills and estates. And people tell me they get so upset when we talk about wills and estates because they say, oh my God, I'm going to die. But guess what? We're all going to die, okay? It's no secret. We're all going to die. Well, we're all going to die on this earthly land. And when we ascend to a place where we don't need money, we don't need clothing, and we don't need cars, we will have no need of the earthly things that we have today. But for those we leave behind, they do have a need for that. And you don't want to leave and your affairs are out of order. Now, all of you look like nice people. I think I'm a nice person too. But if you open up the closets enough, push back the clothes, we all have a few skeletons that we might want to take care of. And when I say skeletons, I don't want to say it in a negative way. We have some beautiful blended families. But if you don't put your business in order, your estate may not pass to that beautiful blended family.
All right.
Or it may pass to someone you may not even know. And so all your life you've worked hard thinking that your grandbaby or your little niece or your little nephew is going to inherit everything you have because that's the only family I have in the world. I don't need a will. You pass on and you find out you have all kinds of family because they come out of the woodwork.
Guaranteed.
And so one of my favorite statements is, black people get funny over money when somebody dies. There have been people who have gone fist to cuffs. People have gone fist to cuffs at the funeral over their mother's casket, over who she left the house to. And you know, back in the day,
You don't have to get to the house.
back in the day, a lot of times people would leave it to the knee baby and the baby, but they didn't necessarily put it in writing. So that's why we're here today. We're here today to dispel the myths. We all know that we're going to make that transition one day. And when we make that transition, we want to make sure that there's no mess at our funerals. There's no crying and screaming over things that are not important. That's going to be our day for you to remember us, to remember the relationships, to remember the good things, and not sit there and stew about what's getting ready to happen. You make it easier for the people who come behind you. When my mother died and I was doing her estate and everything, it's almost like she left me little breadcrumbs to follow to get everything in order. There was no argument, there were no questions, everything was clear. She had it in writing, she had an executed will, she had her power of attorney, she had put whoever she wanted, in this particular case me, on her bank account, she had her beneficiaries in order. I can't tell you how many times I work with clients whose significant others have passed, and they go to the bank to take out the money or to write the check for the funeral to find out they're not the beneficiary of the account. Now, it could be for one of two reasons. Maybe he or she, I don't want to say what the gender was, forgot to make the spouse the beneficiary. It could be that somebody else is the beneficiary, maybe it's a child, or it could be somebody else. So you want to know that ahead of time. You want to have that conversation and make sure that the beneficiary is your spouse or whoever you want it to be. And spouses, you should talk to your significant other and make sure you all are on the same page. Another time, in terms of beneficiaries, your insurance policy. Do we have any people who are in the military? Military people? Okay. All right, because I'm a military brat. So, especially if your people are from down south, like my people were. So when you got ready to go off to, and I'm gonna age myself, Vietnam, or Desert Storm, or any of the other conflicts we've had, you have an insurance policy with the United States government. So if you're 18 or 19 years old and you're ready to go off to war, who do you put on your policy? Mom. Okay, fast forward, you're 36 years old, married, 2 kids. Did you check your insurance policy? So I can't tell you how many funerals I have attended. Some have been family. And they pull out the insurance policy, and now you're 45, 50 years old, and the insurance policy is made out to this mother. So you want to make sure you check your, and I'm not stepping on your toes too much, check your insurance policies from time to time. How many of you in here are married? Okay, cool. How many of you are in your second marriages? You can raise your hands, okay. Okay, so what I suggest to you, things are better today. If you are divorced, make sure you're divorced. Make sure.
Do not laugh. Do not laugh.
Make sure you are legally married, because I have a big family, so I'm not telling family secrets because it may have made the news. So I love going to funerals because all kinds of things happen. So we're sitting at the funeral, and I'm sitting close to my aunt because my uncle had just died. And I had to be about 8 years old, maybe 9 years old. And she's just so upset. Oh my God, the woman was just beside herself. So they're doing the funeral, and then this lady walks through the back of the church and comes up to the front, and she said, and she looked around, and she said, I ain't never divorced Richard. I'm a little kid, right?
Told you not to
And
laugh.
I'm saying to myself, who is that? And so you can get that look from the adults, stay out of grown folks' business. But when I got older, they spilled the tea. So apparently, my Uncle Richard, may he rest in peace, had married this lady in Cairo, Georgia. And I guess they'd been married for a couple of years or so, and they decided that they didn't want to be together anymore. So back then, that was like in the 50s, he packed up his things and moved up to Philadelphia, and she stayed in Cairo. When he got to Philadelphia, he met this other lady, and then they got married, and they lived in Philadelphia. Long and short, Uncle Richard's legal wife got the house, got the insurance, they got everything else that was Uncle Richard's name, so to speak. And the woman who I thought was my aunt pretty much was left without anything from Uncle Richard. So when I say these things, I don't say them because I like telling these crazy stories about my family, which is very crazy. I say this to say, we have to get our houses in order. We have to clean up things perhaps we didn't clean up in the past. And we have to prepare for the future. Now, how many of us have children or nieces or nephews that we love and we want to bless them, as they say, if we pass on? So we want to be able to have that in writing. I want to say that again. We want to have that in writing. Now, you all know the soul singer Aretha Franklin. She died. Bless her heart, she died. And we're not sure what she had in terms of a will. But somebody found a piece of paper tucked in the sofa, and they took that piece of paper to court, and it was proven to be her last will and testament.
Note to self, don't put your will in the sofa.
And it was different from what the family thought it was going to be. So I wanted to talk to you about getting your affairs in order. So first of all, I want to say, what does it mean to have a gift to your family and loved ones? What does it mean to have a gift to your family and loved ones? It means to leave them stress-free. It means to put all of the things that you desire to happen to you in your will. Also, in your will, and what is a will? A will is a legal document that provides step-by-step instructions to those who will read it upon your passing of how you would like to have your worldly goods distributed. I know I seemed like I was joking earlier if I said you had an earlier marriage, if you have other children. In this will, let's say you write a will, and you say, I leave my children, Ann and John, all of my possessions, right? Okay, well you have Susan over here on the side, and you didn't put Susan in the will. When the court looks at that will, they're gonna say, sure, comes in to challenge the will. But in that same will, you could say, to Susan, I leave nothing. I know it sounds harsh. You wanna make it sound better? To Susan, I leave a lifetime of love and joy, and I shower her during my lifetime. But at this time, I do not leave her anything in this will. I mean, if you want to make the blow a little softer, the outcome is the same. Sure that you have a will. And we're talking about this, you write it, you can say, well, I wrote everything down and I put it in my strong box that I keep up in the attic. Okay, that's cute, that's nice. But the strong box doesn't mean anything if there's a challenge to what's going on. Do you want to have your will written up?
It's pretty useless. So in addition to having your will signed, having it notarized, put it someplace where they can find it. Putting it in a safety deposit box where nobody else has a key to the safety deposit box.
Does a will have to be notarized?
In
A
New
will should
Jersey,
be notarized in New Jersey.
You said the word should.
I use the word should because the court is gonna look at the wills and see what was the intent of the person, is it real, is it significant, is it a fake, is somebody that's doing on the side, but if it's notarized, it lets you know that you went to an independent third party to have that will notarized with the witnesses. But the court will look at it, but most likely they may just go through the laws of intestate, and I'll talk about that in a moment.
and the thing about a notary, all of the notary does not attest to what's in the will. All of the notary is attesting to is the fact that the person was in front of them when they signed it.
But you know how we are. I don't want nobody knowing my business. And forgive the language. You know, it's none of their business. Like Chris said, all they're notarizing, all they're witnessing to is, A, you're in your right mind. So please don't be acting out when you know, we do get that. And B, that you are over the age, you're 18 or over. Yes?
I heard before that you shouldn't leave your will in a safe deposit box.
You should not. You should not. You should not, unless you make sure that somebody has access to your safe, somebody else is on your safety deposit box and can gain access. Because if it's in a safety deposit box, it may take them months to find the key, the account, and to gain access to
And
your
then
safety deposit.
your estate probably would have already been probated. Let's talk about estate, safety deposit.
There's another hand before you go on your.
Yes, before I want to just answer her, and I'll come to you next. Oh, okay. A lot of banks now are not allowing you to have safety deposit boxes. So, they're changing their rules. A lot of banks won't notarize your documents anymore. They're changing the rules there. So what I strongly suggest is that when you have your legal papers and your personal papers, that you get a fireproof box that you have in your home somewhere, and that you tell a trusted person where those papers are. And so if something were to happen, and things happen, people's houses actually do burn down. I know someone whose house did burn down, but you know what didn't burn up? Were her legal documents, because they were in a fireproof box. So that's one thing you wanted to do.
Are they very expensive? Fireproof?
I don't think so. They go together. You know, you can get a good one, or you can get a platinum gold one. You know, you just get the kind that you think is best. All right, you're welcome. Yes.
At one time, you used to have to file it with the county. That is no longer applicable.
So you do not have to file it in Serenity County or Burlington. You don't have to file it with the Burlington County Clerk's office. Now, I'll tell you why some people do file wills sometimes, is to put people on notice that there is a will.
Okay.
So you'll see that sometimes. Same thing with a power of attorney. Sometimes if there's some controversy going on within the family, sometimes people will file that power of attorney with the clerk's office, but it's not a requirement that you do that.
Okay.
The requirement is after someone passes is to take that document to the surrogate's office of your county such that it could be the word is probated. Probated means that they look at the legal documents of the deceased. They look at what their estates are, their estate is rather. And what is your estate? Your estate could be your home, your bank account, your clothes, your jewelry, that baby grand piano, that necklace that your great-great-grandmother has passed on from generation to generation. That consists of your estate, okay? So they're gonna look to see what's in their estate. They're gonna look to see if the what was in your estate has been given to somebody or bequeathed, as given as a gift to someone. And then if you have a will, it makes it so much easier. You just go down the will and just check. When you don't have a will, that's when things get a little tricky. So we go through the laws of intestate in the state of New Jersey, pretty much all over the United States, and that goes down the bloodline. So I'll just give you some brief definition of intestate. If you die, this is the time I can ask questions. If you die, who is your next of kin? Come on, somebody raise your hand. Do I have to pick on people because I know some of the names?
Your husband.
If you're married, okay? If you're not married, who's your next of kin?
My parents.
If you have children, who's your next of kin? Your parents or your children? Children. Okay, so had a situation where, you know, people die every day. I don't want y'all to think I gloat over it. I'm just telling you, people die every day. So this is kind of sad. The people, they had just done their will a couple of weeks ahead of this event. And they did their will, they did it airtight. They wanted their, if something were to happen to them, they wanted to go to their grandchildren. If something happened to them, they wanted to go to their children. And if something happened to their child, they wanted it to go to their grandchildren. Okay, I said, that's great. We got it all done. So you should tell your children they should get their will also. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna tell my child to get a will. So gun violence is real in America. And 2 weeks after signing the will, their son was shot and killed, which is kind of hurtful. And he did not have a will. And he was not married to who? The baby's mother. And the last time he spoke to the baby's mother was when? She delivered the child. Yes, child is 9 years old. Parents went down to the surrogate's office and said, my son was killed. I want to, be appointed the administrator over his will. I'd like to go to his bank account so we can settle up things and take care of his affairs. And what did the court say? Can't do that. Who can come in on behalf of the child and take care of all of that? The woman he hadn't seen since when? She gave birth to his child. He had a relationship with the child and none with the mother. So what does that mean? They have a big what on their hands? A big mess on their hands. So that mother is going to be the guardian of the person who's to receive everything from the son. And so you have to see if she is going to take care of those things, or will there be anything left when the child turns 18? Now there are ways to take care of that. But what the mother could do is that she could say, I'm going to be a good steward over these funds, or she could go and deposit everything that comes from that estate with the surrogate's office, and they will then create an account. And every time that child needs a book bag, clothes for school, tuition paid, or whatever the case may be, she would send a letter to the court, and the court would decide if that distribution should take place. The court is generally liberal with those kinds of things, but you're not making that decision. Had he had gotten a will, and he was only like 28 years old, so had he had a will, then the court would have known that everything would have gone the way he wanted it to his parents in trust for his daughter. You never know. So I don't know how I got into that. I think there was a question that kind of took me down that prison path. Yes?
Suppose the daughter have children and she's not married. How does that play out?
Okay, the daughter has children. She's not married, so her next of kin would be her children, not her baby's father.
Okay, so who takes care of this kind of thing?
So if if it's her children are minor children,
Right.
who's ever the guardian of the child would move that through the process.
Or if there's no will, no,
If there's no will. If there is a will, and so this is a two-part possibility. If there is a will, and the father, let's say, the daughter says, I'll leave everything to my children. Her children are minor. In that will, she should say, if they are under the age of 21, I appoint so-and-so to be over there, as a trustee over their affairs, over their financial affairs, over this pot of money, until they're 21. You can put that in your will how you want that to happen.
but between the two,
Beg your pardon?
between the time she write that will,
Mhm.
or that get that statement, and she dies unexpectedly.
So she dies intestate,
Intestate.
and it will go to her children, and
Mhm.
whoever is deemed the guardian over her children will then navigate that process into how they will be able to inherit under her estate.
So I could fight the father?
You could, if you're trying to move for guardianship, then the court's gonna look at a lot of different things. They're gonna see the father is gonna have an edge over you. But if the father had been an absent father and there's no relationships, the court is gonna look at all of that. But that's not a black and white yes or no answer.
Okay.
Yes, Chris?
One of the things that El Rhonda just pointed out is in your will, you can take care of property as well as relationships. So what she was talking about is the guardianship of children that you can set forth in your will, as well as the property associated with what your assets are. So you could put both of those things in your will just to be, and most attorneys who do this kind of work would encourage you to do that. Because you can be custodian of the property and then you can be custodian of the kids. So if you want to be comprehensive, you want to do both. So just don't assume that it's just going to, if you take care of the property, that the kids are automatically going to be taken care of.
It has to be clear. Angie?
We have technology coming out now.
Mhm.
GPT chat is running rapid. I can do everything online, make me a will, make me a resume, do my papers. So if someone makes a will using this technology, is the court or gonna really recognize it?
I'm gonna answer you in two ways.
Okay.
And the next speaker, she'll speak a little bit to that as well. So GPT is here to stay. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. And it's helpful. It's very helpful. So there was an attorney not too long ago who relied on GPT to help him write his brief. And when he argued it before the court, it was all wrong. So I'm not saying GPT is wrong. I'm saying after you get that stuff through GPT, read it to see if it's applicable to you. The difference between GPT and a human being, like if you come to me, I'm going to tailor it to you. I'm going to look at what your circumstances are, and I'm going to make sure that it's current for you. But there is software out there. And after you go online and you put your information in there and you print it out, then you've got to get it signed, you've got to get it notarized, you have to go through those steps to get that done. And then, because now you are attesting that everything in that document is what you want. Now, you're an intelligent person, I know you, so I know you're an intelligent person. And you can read all of this and you'll know if it's correct for the most part. There are a lot of people who read what we call legalese, and they don't know what it means. They just know that the caption said last will and testament, and it asks me some questions, my address, how many children I have, if I'm married, how old am I, etc. And then it spits out your will. You want to just make sure whoever does your will, it is reflective of what you want. Okay? I hope that answers the question.
It is.
Okay.
You, yes.
So you're saying that the children should write, a will, right?
I'm going to say it this way, I'm just going to cut you off. Every parent should have a will for themselves. Once you give birth, shortly thereafter, you should all have a will. You should have put a will in place.
Okay, so that's if you have anything.
Okay, so people say, I don't have anything to put in the will. But you do. You do. And you don't know what it is. And then you don't know what you're going to have in 15 years, but you still might have that will in 15 years. So I spoke earlier about having your great-great-grandmother's necklace, your great-great-grandmother's wedding band. or having the medals, the Purple Heart that your great-grandfather got. That meant something to you all. Maybe that's something that your grandmother kept on top of the break front. Remember that term, break front? She kept it in the break front. And that was something that was very special in the family. If you don't have that in your will, here I go talking about my family again. But if you don't have that in the will, somebody like my Aunt Helen, when she comes to visit the bereaved, when she leaves, if you had any pictures hanging on the wall, Aunt Helen's gonna take a couple of them with her. Okay? So, and that's important. That might have been important to you. You know, back 50 years ago, people didn't take pictures like they take them today. We take them for granted. We took out this iPhone. I probably have 4,000 pictures on this iPhone. Well, how many pictures do I have of my grandfather? I have one picture of my grandfather. And you know who has the original? Aunt Helen. Because when my grandfather died, she took the picture off the wall and took it back up to Massachusetts with her. That would have been something important, to give you an example.
So you're saying, regardless of whether you assume you have something or not, you should still do a will?
Yes, you can say in your will something to the effect, I'll leave my entire estate, both real and residual, to whoever that person is. And that's a general one. And then every year, you should look, every 5 years, you should look at your will to make sure it's reflective of what you want, and that the people who you left it to may still be around. Okay. Keith?
Yeah, around this,
Yes.
I have a will, and people always say you have to update your will. How often should you, or do you, I guess, propose people to update their will? I don't want to update my will every time a niece makes me, upsets me, and I throw out of my will. I mean, when life changes, if I'm buying property or buying this, what's your recommendation in terms of updating? Because I can make it general, make the property or all the properties general, that it would go to my wife or to Caitlin. But how often are you saying when life changes or finance changes or?
Definitely when there's a life-changing event in your life, in your world, in your family, that's a time, a couple of weeks later, to take a look at it, dust it off, and see if it's still applicable. Sometimes in your wills, it has provisions in there, if this happened, then this. So you want to look and see if the then this is still applicable, or if you need to get it updated. A life event, if you get divorced, you want to check the will. You may want to change your will.
New grandkids.
Well, if you have grandchildren in there, but if in your will it says, should I have any grandchildren, and this is a clause that people put, at the time of my death, then I would like for my estate to be divided amongst those grandchildren. So those are life-changing events. But if you have substantial assets, I would do it yearly. I will do it yearly, just like when I'm doing filing my income taxes. I will look at it to see if I've had any major changes in my life. I look to see if I've had a major gain that I may want to not necessarily leave here, but leave there. And then I'm have to put a plug in for your houses of worship and your charities. I may be a little bit wiser now. And I know that my house of worship or my favorite charity won't be here in 50 years unless people make gifts to them in their wills. A lot of people leave 10% to their church. I'm not plugging the ACLU, but I'm saying I used to work there, and I worked on the wealth management committee. You'd be surprised. Well, correction. I was surprised at how much money people leave to their special charities and their houses of worship. There is a church up in North Jersey where the lady had millions and millions and millions of dollars. And she left it all to her church to keep the organ going, the pipe organ going. They may have 2 parishioners, but that organ is on. So if you have substantial wealth, you had a big change, you hit the lottery. Check your will out, see how you want to do your distributions.
So you're saying an annual review, amendment?
Yeah, depending on I would do, it doesn't hurt to pick it up and look at it annually. If you don't, We wanna look at it annually, definitely after a significant life-changing event, and definitely at least every 5 years, I would just look at it. Because if it's done a generally correct will, it'll get you through the next scenario.
Sure.
It'll get you from your spouse to your child, and maybe to your grandchildren if you have any. Okay, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna go here, and then we're gonna come to you, okay? Yes?
Just to share my experience, during my career in the military, one of the things that we did was, we had to do, it was mandatory, it was called a birth month audit, where you came in and you went through your beneficiaries, you went through all your life-changing events, just everything. But it stuck in your mind during that, your month of your birth, that you went through that process. Another way to remember.
Okay, you'll be next after this gentleman.
You pretty much answered my question with regards to, changing or modifying your will. We had a will done maybe a little over 25 years ago when the kids were young. Now we had significant changes since then.
A lot of change.
So we have to have it, I guess, changed or reviewed. With that in mind, what's the cost associated with having the will changed or even getting a brand new will? What does the cost look like today?
They vary. They can vary from a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000. It depends on what exactly needs to be done with your will. So usually if you contact an attorney, they'll tell you what that price is. But usually it's something, if you really want to make a change, whatever it is at that time, it's worth it. And shop around. Shop around. There you go.
Yeah, I kind of got an answer through that last question, but I just wanted to ask, when you say updated, so you gotta go back and get it notarized and signed and notarized all again, go
Yes.
through that again?
And it's not a problem to get that done, you know, once you make the appointment and you set up what you wanna do, you kinda know what you want and get some advice, then you can just have the documents updated. I don't want us to think that getting a will done, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal to do. Okay, it's a big deal to get up one morning and to look at your spouse and say, hey honey, we need to get our house in order. Now, I'm not planning on going anywhere and you're not planning on going anywhere, but while we're still in our right minds, let's make sure things are gonna happen the way we want them to happen. Because when you get, not everybody in here is gonna get it, but if you start to get Alzheimer's, or if you get, become ill and you can't communicate, you're at the mercy of the courts. And they're gonna do things maybe not the way you want to do things. And so I'm gonna take one more question because I do wanna talk about power of attorney. Okay, who am I taking?
Before you do that, before you go on, the issue of cognitive ability is a more prevalent issue nowadays. So when you draft a will, you're in your quote unquote right mind. But people get early onset Alzheimer's or dementia, and your ability to sign a will then comes into question. And if somebody wants to challenge your will, one of the heirs wants to challenge your will and say, this person had dementia, so they couldn't actually sign a will because they weren't in their right mind. It creates a whole nother scenario, and then you gotta worry about having the person whose will evaluated to see whether or not they were in their right mind when they drafted the will. So you have to be conscious of that as well as you go through the process.
In my practice, I've been to a lot of nursing homes, I've been to a lot of people's homes, and sometimes as an attorney, you have to make a little evaluation of whether or not the person is able to do something. I actually did a will for a gentleman who could not speak, and the only thing he could do was blink his eyes. So I sat with the family for a long time, so I could see if he was just blinking his eyes because they were dry, or if he would blink once for no, blink twice for yes, etc. And then I sat with him by myself for a while before I would actually go forward with the will, or with the power of attorney and something else that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna take a question from the back, and you had one, right? Okay, I'll take one in the back.
Yes, I know will is about dying, but while I'm
No, a
still-
will is about leaving your assets to the future. We are all gonna make that transition one day. I just wanna make that clear.
I got that part.
Okay.
My question is trust accounts. How do we go about making it so that I can make these decisions? Or how do I make decisions so that what I leave is managed
Okay.
correctly?
Okay, so that was one of the things I was gonna talk about, and I think you're gonna piggyback on some of that as well. Did you wanna take that question? Okay, all right, I talk a lot, so that's why I'm trying to, keep myself contained here. A trust, what is a trust? A trust is an instrument that is drafted up by an attorney. You can have GPT drafted up, but I would take that to an attorney. And I'm not knocking GPT, but I'm just saying, just make sure it's clear. You create an instrument that's called a trust. And it's a legal document that says, I, Jane Doe, hereby create this trust. And I appoint the following persons to be the trustee or trustees of the trust. And should that trustee no longer be able to perform his or her duty, either through an inability or death, I therefore appoint, and you put the next person on there to be the trustee. Okay, so you've got the legal document. After you get the legal document, you then transfer whatever assets you want into that legal document. Trusts were really developed to help wealthy people protect their properties and their interests from inheritance tax. In New Jersey, about 4 or 5 years ago, the tax laws were changed. So if you're a first-line heir, the taxes, there's usually no tax on most property that you would receive. But before, you used to get taxed on it. So they would create these trusts. And so when you create the trust, who do you appoint to? Who knows the best about you in your property? Who knows the best about you? You.
Mm-hmm.
So you appoint yourself trustee of your property that's in the trust. You pay the trust pays the mortgage, the trust pays the taxes, but if something happens to you, the trustee, you said, if something happens to me, then I appoint my eldest daughter to be the successor trustee. Your eldest daughter pays the taxes, she pays the mortgage, the property remains in the trust. Your eldest daughter could then say, if something were to happen to me, I appoint my eldest son to be the trustee. So we've gone down 3 generations, and like people like to say, Mama's house is still in the trust, and it's still there. And that creates what? We started off with that generational wealth. I used to attend First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, before I came back down to Burlington. And I remember Dr. Suarez saying that the way that he went to college was because his grandmother had rental property. And that paid, I think when he went to Montclair State in the beginning, that paid his tuition. Now, when my mother went to college, there was no rental property. You know how she got to one of her quarters in Savannah State, so she's gone and dead and gone. She's not gonna be in trouble. Hey, Maddie, oh, sorry, had an insurance policy. And if she went into the hospital, the insurance policy paid her $75. And that's what it cost to go to college, a quarter back in the 1950s. So when mother was short on tuition and Natty got sick, and that paid a quarter of her mother's tuition. Because there was no generational wealth. They had some generational knowledge. I guess you might then say that's scamming the system, but she taught for 30-something years, so someone benefited from it.
Nice.
Generational wealth pays it forward, if you want to think of it a different way. Generational wealth means that your children are not saddled with unnecessary bills. Generational wealth makes it possible for the generation coming behind you to create generational wealth. Generational wealth breaks the shackles of us having to depend on a government program to take care of our families. It breaks the shackles of us being beholden to the bank, to the one thing we were able to scrape together, which is that primary home. So I can't give you all the information. Our financial planner will tell you all of that. But generational wealth starts at home by creating a will. A trust is not for everyone, but creating a trust for some people is helpful. Creating a trust if you have a child with a disability who you know is going to need assistance into adulthood. Creating these instruments helps protect what you work so hard for, or what your parents worked so hard for to get you to where you could start and have a springboard to today. A couple of things I want to talk about really quickly are powers of POA, powers of attorney, and living wills are medical directed. Do you all know what a power of attorney is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I'm gonna tell you what it is anyhow. A power of attorney is when you give someone else authority to handle your business as though they were you. So I know Rhonda Williams Alston, and my daughter is in the back, and let's say I give her my power of attorney to my daughter Brianna. Brianna can go to the bank, show them the power of attorney she has, and withdraw every single penny I may have in the bank. So she has power of attorney. So when you're doing your power of attorney, what you want to do is you want to decide how you want to have that power of attorney. What I recommend to a lot of people, depending on what your needs are, is have a power of attorney, but it becomes active or initiated upon a certain life event. What is that life event? I am no longer able to make decisions for myself, make business decisions for myself. I'm incapable physically of going and taking care of my business. You give it to a trusted person. I'm not trying to break up families in here, but that trusted person is not always your spouse. Because your spouse might be in the same boat you're in. So you might want to give it to someone else, or you and your spouse can have it activate between each of you upon a life event. Sometimes, if you're in the military from different periods of time, you can have a limited power of attorney, where you empower one spouse. Let's say you all buying a house or buying a car, whatever the case may be. That power of attorney will allow that spouse to act on your behalf because they may be overseas. With technology today, we can do a lot of different things, but in some cases, you can have a limited power of attorney. And we could talk about that in more detail, but it's always good to have one, even if you don't think you need one, have one and have it become active if certain things happen. For example, you're in a car, like on my way here today, and I hope and pray the person is okay on 295 North. As I was coming up 295, I saw plumes of smoke, and we started to slow down. And when, you're driving, we're all different ages driving, and as I passed by the car, it was totally burned black, the car. And I seen the ambulance pass not too long ago, and I asked myself, and I said, I hope that person's okay. In the blink of an eye, life can change. In the blink of an eye. So therefore, you should have, as we started off, have your house in order. Okay, so you all pretty much got an understanding of the power of attorney, right? And then I suggest you talk to an attorney, have them help you with your power of attorney. There are different ways to do it. I'm talking about the GPT. I know I don't take it, but through your financial planner, they have mechanisms and they have legal staff in place in the background as well who may be able to help you with that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the living will. Have you all heard of the living will? Living will is a medical directive. Now, I know people start getting a little squeamish about what's going to happen when I get to a point in my life where I can't tell the doctor what I want because I can't speak. I can't tell the doctor what I need or want because I'm unconscious. Well, usually they'll go to the next of kin, but sometimes that next of kin may not know exactly what you want. So, or for example, someone may say, if it comes to a point in time in my life that I have been deemed to either be brain dead, or have a terminal disease, or have a painful disease that's going to lead to my death, I don't want heroic measures taken on me. Okay, I had a couple who came to me. The wife said, I don't want any heroic measures taken on me. The husband looked at me, he says, everything they had, I want it done to me. The wife looked at him and she said, really? She didn't even know that's how he felt. She was gonna, she was gonna pull the plug, right? So therefore, you in your medical directive, you would say, if I get to a certain point in my life, I want to have palliative care. Give me all the drugs you have to keep me comfortable, even if I may become addicted to it. And then I had this lady, she was like 95 years old, one of my clients, and she said, well, I don't want to be addicted to drugs. And I said, well, it's your choice. But they have a lot of things out here that if you get addicted to this drug and you live past this terminal disease, because I believe in Jesus and all the power that God has, we can wean you off of these drugs. So she said, okay, I'll take that. Another client said, I watched my grandson die from being a heroin addict. I don't want anything that might make me become addicted. You know what it is? It's a personal choice. But you know what's going to happen if you don't have it written down? Nobody will know. So you may say, I don't want anything. The doctors have nothing. And then you end up on all of these drugs that you didn't want. Or you end up on a respirator that you didn't want to have. Or they don't put you on a respirator because your husband says, no, she didn't want to be on a respirator. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. I'll take it off the spouses. Your daughter might say you didn't want to be on a respirator.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, it's great having the living will and the power of attorney, but please note that the person you select, have a discussion with that person. Because if I have an emotional child that don't want to take me off the respirator, even though, so, you know, the people that you pick is important, that they know this is how you really feel, and that they're going to stick with your request.
Very good point.
Just so you know, I used to work for the county with the Senior Legal Services Program that did powers of attorney wills and living wills, and too many stories about that. And then I also have my own personal experience in terms of dealing with it. My father had a catastrophic stroke, and my mother then was trying to figure out how her little 5'2" self was going to take care of my 6'2" dad, who had a stroke where he was not communicative, he couldn't clean himself, couldn't go to the bath, but she was trying to figure out how she could leave her job and take care of it. So it's not just your children, it can be your spouse. The gift that is a living will or advanced healthcare directive, which I encourage people to make with your primary care physician, because they know what your medical conditions are. Make it with them, so should you go in the hospital, your children, your loved ones are not stressing, obsessing over, do I put mom on, do I have her on a feeding tube? Do I have her on a respirator? There was a situation that I dealt with where the person had diabetes, advanced diabetes. So as part of the care, they proceeded to amputate 4 toes. After that, they then amputated the foot below the ankle. Then they amputated the leg below the knee. All of those things, if you don't want those sorts of they're life-sustaining, but you also have to consider quality of life decisions. You can put those decisions in your living will so your parents or children don't have to decide, wow, do I do that? They want to hold on to mom or dad. They want to hold on to their children. But what is the quality of life that they will have to experience? And guess what? Every one of those procedures comes with a cost associated with it. So along with it diminishing your estate, it potentially could raise a bill. So even though you're gone, the hospital will still send a bill for $75,000, $100,000 that your estate is still responsible for paying. So you have to make those decisions.
You just said something. You're saying that you can go to your doctor to do the living will, but do you have to do that through a lawyer as well? So I always assumed that you would have to, it would have to be done with your family, like your
There's a couple of ways
children
you
or
can
your.
do that. You can talk to your doctor about what happens when you get to a certain point. He or she can explain to you if you have a disease, right? They can tell you how it progresses and what's going to happen. Like we know people who have Parkinson's disease, and we know it's going to progress. If you have MS, it's going to progress. And your doctor can inform you of the different stages of the disease. You and your doctor can come up with a list of things that you'll be comfortable with or uncomfortable with. And then at that point, you would seek, I would say seek an attorney to do your living will. And you would put in there, I know I have X, Y, and Z condition. And if I get to such and such a state, this is what I want. That's when you really tailor it. I would talk to my doctor if I have a condition, and then before your living will, certain things in your living will happen. The ones that I write up say, after consultation with my primary care physician and other medical professionals, then this will happen.
But when you, I'm sorry, but when you get to the hospital, hypothetically you get in an accident, and you end up in the hospital, now you have your spouse or your kids trying to figure out, does mom wanna be on a feeding tube or not? How does the doctor comes into that?
So if you have a living will, well, the doctor's gonna come into the decision because they're gonna tell the family where you are. Your mother is either, brain dead or she's not. Your loved one is, either, they're, whatever their condition is. Once they're armed with that information and they have your living will, then it's almost like a blueprint of what they should do. Also, if you go into the hospital, any hospital today, you could be 20 years old, you could be 100 years old. One of the first things they're gonna ask you is, do you have a living will? Do you have a medical directive?
Yep.
If you don't, well, here is one that you might wanna look over and sign. Okay, so you should, be aware of that. And then, if you go into a particular hospital system, Virtua, Cooper, UPenn, et cetera, and you have that living will that you put in 5 years ago, it's still on record. So they'll have that for you, okay? We're gonna take, 2 more questions. I have 2 more points, and I have to sit down because it's not fair to my co-presenter. I could talk about this all day, all night. It's not because I like that. It's because I like living, and I want the people who are gonna be here after us to live even better than we did. So I'll take that one question, and I'll give a couple of points.
With the miracles of DNA and finding out who your true biological kins are, and let's just say that person that has no kids but found out that he had a child, does that child become a guardian or some sort?
Beneficiary under the will?
Well, beneficiary, but also have to make decisions on that.
Okay, so that's a little more of a nuanced situation. So if you don't know you have children, let's say you're in your younger years, there's a possibility you might have some children somewhere. When you write up your will and what have you, you can say, you know, these are the children I know of, and these are my kids and no others, and I'll leave everybody else out of the will. So that takes care of your will. In terms of your health, usually it's somebody who doesn't know you doesn't usually take over your health care, but if on first blush the court is going to say, oh, this is his son or this is her daughter, so surely they will want their child to take care of them, and then the person who you know to have a relationship with may have to challenge that, and the court might look to see which is best. But initially they're going to look to that next of kin. And that's a broad view. There's so many other circumstances that come in there. So I don't want to say that's going to happen for everybody.
But that child is next of kin.
Well, the child is next of kin, but you didn't know that child. It's too many factors. I can't give you a black and white yes or no. It'll depend. It depends. It depends. A lot of GIs came home from Germany, from Korea, and from other places, and 50 years later, 30 years later, this biracial child comes home and says, you're my father. So, is that biracial child, and I'm saying biracial because it's usually from another country, child's from another country, going to now make life decisions for you? There may be some discussion that goes on with that if you don't have a spouse. And then if there are other children, all of the children have to agree, or the majority of them have to agree on your care. Okay, so I have to give my co-presenter her opportunity, so I'm going to.
One last question, and if anybody has questions following that, please see around at the end of the session. That's okay, because we're trying to move it along.
Or Kenesha.
Or depending on the question, absolutely, I'll guess. There's one more question.
I have a trust question. When you talked about it, you mentioned rich people have trust. If you're single,
I'm saying that it was designed for wealthier people, but anybody can have a trust.
okay, so if you're single and you own your own home, is it best to put your property in a trust?
Everything is dependent upon your factual circumstances, and that's going to transition me to my next point. Then I'm going to sit down and we can talk some more. How many of you have heard about the 5-year look-back rule?
Yes.
So for those of you who didn't raise your hand, if something were to happen to you, you were to go into a nursing home and you have to have care given to you, the court's going to, and then let's say you transferred your house This is 2023. In 2020, you transferred your house to a loved one or to a trust. Social Security and all these other agencies are gonna look back and see when that took place. Did it take place 3 years ago? Or did it take place 6 years ago? And that's gonna make a difference. If your house is in a trust is like another human being, but it's not a human being, but it's a legal entity. They can't take it from the trust because you don't own it, the trust owns it, even though you are the trustee of the trust. Okay? So, 5-year look back. And you're doing certain financial planning, think about whether or not you need to make some transfers of your property, because what they'll do is they'll let you live in the property. Let's say it's you and your wife, you all have a home. You go into a nursing home, one of you goes into a nursing home, and most times, and I'm gonna segue into you, that may not cover your insurances, may not cover your nursing home care. But they're still gonna take care of you in the nursing home, and they're gonna take half of your income to the nursing home, and then they're gonna say, okay, if that loved one passes away, they'll say, well, Mr. Widower or Mrs. Widower, you can stay in here, but when you pass away, we're gonna sell this house to get our money back. But if your house had been moved somewhere else 5 years earlier, you might be able to save it to put it towards your, I'm gonna end with it, generational wealth. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here. I thank you for your time. New Jersey. If you want to come and see me and have a conversation, feel free to check me out. Thank you so much.
Excuse me.
Oh, you want to take my picture? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ready.
While we're preparing for our next guest speaker, I just want to make an announcement. I know that we had originally scheduled for 4 o'clock. If you have to leave, I want to be mindful and consider everybody else's schedule. If you need to leave, that's fine. If you have time to stay, feel free to stay because we want to make sure you get as much information as possible. We do have a business card also for Ms. Kanisha if you need to grab some cards along the way. And if you want to speak to Rhonda, before you leave, we'll try to make arrangements for you to do that as well. Thank you so much.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. And I know you've been sitting for quite some time, and it's all good. I'm going to not belay this. I'm going to get right to it. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and stop me. But I'm just going to keep moving. I'm here talking about life insurance. Although I do trust in estate planning, I didn't want to step on Ms. Rhonda's toes. So she's doing that piece. I'm going to tell you a little bit about life insurance and how to fund the generational wealth and how to build generational wealth and keep it going within the family. All right, so I'm an actual independent life insurance agent. I write for 5 different insurance companies, and each insurance company has 5 different underwriting guidelines. So let's say if you have, you're 100% healthy, I can send you to all 5 of the life insurance companies. However, let's say if you're coming with pre-existing conditions, you have some ailments, 2, I'm automatically going to drop off the list, but I may be able to get you to the other 3. Of course, somebody calls me when I'm shooting up here. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about income protection, debt elimination, and legacy creation. All right. So, Social Security does a study every year, and they determine by the time folks reach 65, they fall in 5 categories, and these are the 5 categories. So 54% rely on the government, family, or charity to fund their life after 65 or about 65. 36% of the folks are dead. So this is out of 100 people, a study out of 100 people. So again, 54% rely on either the family, the government, or charity to supplement their income. 36% have passed away. 5% are still working. So at 65, you're looking for retirement, but those 5%, they still have to work. They're still working. I don't know if it's for pleasure. Most of the people that I talk to, it's because they had to, all right? And then 4%, so that means 4 people out of 100, they're actually financially stable. And 1%, that one person out of that 100 is actually wealthy.
I wanna be in the 1%.
So let me ask you this, if you didn't change anything right now, where do you see yourself in here?
Not good.
That's rhetorical, right?
It is. It's just some self-reflection, some introspection for that, right? Are you satisfied with where you're at?
Can everyone see this, or do we need to move it?
I don't know. Can you see it, or we need to move it to the center?
Oh, I can see it.
Okay, see, okay, appreciate that, okay. All right, so there's 2 things that we have to battle, and we know these 2 things, and they are what they are. Inflation, that's what we're dealing with right now. $50 worth of groceries, let's say 10 years ago, could be like the whole shopping cart, maybe, right? Yes, $50 worth of groceries on today. What 3 items?
Maybe
I'm
4.
gonna give you 10. I'm gonna give you, I'm being liberal.
Yeah.
8,
Wow.
5, right?
Five.
You can't even fill the cart. It's ridiculous.
Can't get the water.
And then let's talk about the taxes. Where are we with taxes? Do you even think they're gonna go up as we continue to, if they're gonna go up? Does anybody have any hope that the taxes are gonna go down? Exactly. Inflation's gonna continue to rise, taxes are gonna continue to go up, and we're pretty much just stuck. You know, like, what are we gonna do? All right, so these are the 3 phases of retirement. Accumulation, which you're gonna pay into your retirement during your working years. Your preservation is when you're nearing retirement, and so now you're planning to get your documents in order so you can successfully retire, hopefully, without having to go back to work. And then the distribution is when your retirement pays you out. But, do you have enough money for retirement? If you were to retire, could you retire and not have to work? Who can retire and not work? Okay, it's you. Okay. That's a blessing. That's gonna be a blessing. All right, so let me just It's all about planning. It's all about planning.
Yeah.
So
So it depends
these
on
are
what quality of life you want too.
Exactly.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
I want a good quality.
Yes.
Good
So right now we have free money, we have tax-free money, tax-deferred money, and taxable money. So for the free money, so you can inherit the money.
Taxable.
Yeah. It's free. Like, you didn't earn it. You didn't earn it. And then you have, some of us are, lucky to have the 401k matching from the, people we work for, and they match our money up to 8%. Then we have our tax-free money. Then we our tax-free money.
What's that? Oh, yeah, what's that?
Hold on.
Where can I find that?
Yeah. So your Roth IRA. So for your Roth IRA, the IRS allows you to contribute a certain amount of money up to a certain point. However, you have to not exceed their income requirement. So there's a balancing act with that. And I think actually raised it $6,500 to, so you can, this year you can put in $6,500. And then if you're, I believe if you're 50, you can put in $7,500, something like that. But that's not a lot of money. So then you have your life insurance, your cash value life insurance. All right. Usually this pops up automatically, but anyway. So your life insurance cash value, basically, you have your life insurance policy, which is your death benefit, right? It has a death benefit to it, but then it has a living benefit to it. With that living piece, that allows you to tap into those funds while you're living tax-free, because you're taking it as a loan against the policy, and you're able to use that to supplement your income. So let's say your pension is not enough, your IRA is not enough. You can use your life insurance policy as another means of income to supplement your income. So then tax deferred money are annuities, your different types of plans, your 401ks, your TSPs, those are your savings plans, your 403bs, IRAs. These are all tax codes. That's all they are. So they're tax deferred. So when you become 59 and a half, you become eligible to take these monies out of these accounts without penalty, but they are taxed. And then these are your taxable money, your wages, the money that you actually earn, those capital gains. And I say capital gains because me and my husband, we flip houses too. And we didn't think about capital gains when we did our first flip. And it hurt real bad. So we had to figure things out the next time around. But yeah, those capital gains hurt. So you got the interest from the 1099, your savings accounts, your CDs, Social Security. All right. So if you contribute even $1 more than your matching amount, then you actually have to skip number 2 and go to number 3, because now that money that you spent over for your free money becomes taxable. So any contribution above the match or the 401k TSP becomes tax deferred money, and you skip over number 2. So now this is what we talk about getting your house in order. This is your financial house in order.
One on the stand.
Try it now. Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I thought I was loud. I apologize for that. So now let's talk about the proper order to build your financial house. So when building a house, what is the first thing the contractor has to lay there? The foundation. Without a proper foundation, the house is going to crumble. It's going to fall. It can't stand. So when the foundation is right, and when all else fails, you won't have to rely on. There we go. I just wanted to make sure everything popped up. All right. So you won't have to rely on like any outside thing to help you. So once you have your foundation, which is your life insurance, your second thing that you need to do is create an emergency fund. Your emergency fund should be between 3 to 6 months. You should have that. All right? And if you don't have that, you can start. Even if you started with 5% or 10%, wherever you have to start from, that's where you gotta go. All right? So now we can start with step 3 by planning your retirement, and preferably a tax-free retirement. But you must know how to structure that, and many Americans do not. Yep. So for step 4, what about the surprises we get from bad doctors' reports or sickness or illness beyond our control? Balloons and get well cards are fine, but the reality is it don't pay no bills. It's not gonna do anything. There's no benefit. And lastly, at some point, we all want to benefit from risk-free investments, but we cannot forget about the taxes and inflation that we're talking about. There we go. All right, so last but certainly not least, let's discuss life insurance to protect your assets. There are only 2 types of insurance. It's the term and the permanent. I know a few financial pundits say that all you need is term insurance, or you should save your money, save your own money. I've also heard about the term buy term and invest the difference. However, the reality is that we spend the difference, and that this formula failed middle America. So here's how it works. So we have our term insurance. These are the 2 types of insurance, term. And so term insurance is low cost initially, but it will increase annually. There's no cash buildup. The coverage actually ends. You can get 10, 20, 30 years of coverage. So for our insurance companies, they do offer riders, these type of riders for free, at no additional cost. So terminal illness, chronic illness, critical illness, Alzheimer's, and that's new, and the fertility journey coverage. Now, our permanent life insurance offers those same riders as well. It's a little higher initially, however, the cost remains the same, and you can build cash value from it. The coverage is permanent. You still get the terminal illness coverage, the chronic illness coverage, critical illness coverage, critical injury, Alzheimer's, fertility journey, and your cash value is growing tax-free. And you can use that to build your emergency fund, save for education, your wealth building, or generational wealth, and your retirement fund to supplement your retirement. There was something else I wanted to say, but I totally forgot just that fast.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is permanent the same as whole life? Or
Yes.
It's the same as
Yeah.
whole?
Yeah.
Can you switch over from term to permanent?
You can, annually. So, but it depends on your age. Yeah, it depends on age. You still can do it, but I'll say this, the cost of it will depend on your age when you switch. Yeah. Now, you may have a term policy that says, guaranteed insurability, which is cool because when you go to turn over to the permanent life insurance policy, it'll still cover you from the time that you created it. Let's say you did it at the age of 20, and then now let's say you're 40, right? And you're like, okay, I want permanent insurance, but you have that guaranteed insurability rider. So when you go to turn it over, they're going to set it back as if you were, they're going to give you the rates as if you were 20 versus 40. So you're going to be paying less. Question. More clarity?
How would you know? How would you know if you have that?
It should be in your policy. And then when when the person that's creating a policy with you, have them read it to you.
But it's mine's a long time ago. That was like,
a lot of people say the same thing.
I can't remember half that. I don't look at it.
They don't call you and say happy birthday. They just set it and forget it. Wow.
I just pay it automatically.
Yeah.
So it's there.
Yeah. But nobody ever explained like what's in it. They're just saying, okay, well here you have life insurance, you're good.
Yeah.
That's it. Got it. Yes.
So what is this that I'm hearing of burial insurance? I keep hearing everything, I know, they come out. I said, well, where does it fit with term and perm? Is it term, perm, and burial?
We don't even do that.
Okay, then I'll leave that alone.
Yeah, we don't even do any type of thing like that. Anything close to that, we call it a pre-needs insurance. And we call it pre-needs insurance.
Okay.
And that's done where we actually go to the funeral homes and set up a relationship with them and give them the insurance policy, and then they pass it on to the folks.
Okay.
Yeah, but we don't do burial pre-needs.
May I interrupt for a second? Angie, you may be referring to when people, they prepay for their funeral expenses. So when the loved one passes away, that's already taken care of. And a lot of people do that.
Okay.
But there is burial insurance, which basically, it's a nominal amount of money that basically just covers putting you in the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, by nominal, I mean like between $5,000 and $10,000, and that's it. No, you don't, it doesn't accrue.
Right.
But that is not, I would barely count that as an asset because its design is just to put you in the ground. Just so your heirs don't have to. And everybody in here is black, so we all know that sometimes you gotta wait for folks to get the money together so they can put blood in the ground.
And they send them advertisements out all the time. I just got one yesterday. In the mail.
Burial insurance. All insurance companies sell?
Not all insurance companies, we don't sell it. We don't sell burial insurance.
That part that we discussed, yeah, I would like further clarification after.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Unless somebody else wants that, but I know me personally.
And I'm almost done, but thank y'all for coming. I'm almost done. All right. So with our insurance policies, basically they have two jobs. So the first job is to cover your loved ones, or to cover your loved ones financially in the event of your death. The other part of our insurance policies, the second part, is to provide living benefits to you. Whether you want to, again, build generational wealth, use the policy to build generational wealth, fund college, or have, pay for expenses. Cars or homes, make a down payment on a house, or If you accumulate enough, buy the house outright. It's up to you. But these are the two functions that our policy do for our clients in all 5 of the insurance companies that we use.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you're using it as the payoff stuff, if you have your insurance policy, you're using it as to do something else with, does that diminish
Your death benefit?
your death benefit? Yeah.
So depending on, if you come to me and you tell me, Kenesha, I want to use this policy to pay off debt. Okay. So we'll structure the policy where your interest rate, your return of interest, and the interest that you would pay on the loan will basically balance each other out. Mm-hmm. So your death benefit doesn't decrease, and you can continue to take a loan against the cash value. So you're not taking the actual cash value out of the policy. Okay. The cash value still remains in the policy, accumulating, earning interest. You take a loan from the insurance company, and your policy is the collateral.
So when you die, what happens to that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when you die, what happens to the loan? If you do have a balance on that loan, it's just going to be deducted. Right. Now, depending on how we craft your insurance policy, your death benefit may have increased as well, because we design policies that have increasing death benefits. Where, let's say you buy a $50,000 policy, it has a cash value, whatever. I crafted where you had an increasing death benefit. So maybe 10 years from now, whatever, instead of a $50,000 death benefit, now it's $75,000. Mm-hmm. So you're still not losing. Right. You can take that 25, take that difference, take the loan from that, and you're still at the same place.
But only
I'm sorry?
But only from the permanent.
Only from the permanent, yep. Mm-hmm. Because the term is a rental.
It has no cash value. Yeah. You kind of like need to die on that term.
Yeah.
In that term.
Yeah. So your term policy is like a rental. It's for folks who say, you know what, I don't want to do any more, I don't want to pay any more for a whole life policy. I only need it for until my house is paid off. Then you'll get the term until the house is paid off. Let's say for the next 10 years, you just covering that enough just to cover that piece for that time period, and then it goes away. But you still have your permanent life insurance policy, and that term is just gone. Yeah. Permanent lasts for your life or 120 years. Term lasts for the terms that you pay. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So
I'm sorry. So whole life has a time frame?
No. Well, whole life is for basically your life. So if you last to be 120, then that's what it's going to be. Normally, we create policies that span 120 years, just so there's no lapse. That's a blessing. Even if they do, then they have the option to cash out. They can surrender that policy. Before that. Yeah. Oh, and I guess let me just back up because I'm trying to rush and I don't want to hold you. Just want to get to this one. So these term illness coverages, so if you have, and that's for the term policy, term insurance and permanent insurance, if you come down with any terminal illness, chronic illness, critical illness, Alzheimer's, fertility journey, things going on, you can take money, you can go to the insurance company and have them deduct that money. Let's say you have a $300,000 policy, okay? Be it term or permanent. You come down with one of these illnesses, you go to the insurance company, whatever their requirements are, a doctor's note, something like that, they'll give you a check. Not for the whole 300,000, but for maybe 250,000. So you can use your death benefit before you die, if need be. And all these riders, these are called riders, are offered for free with the 5 companies that we contract with.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Got you. So, I know I was gonna get that question, and I don't remember all of them. All right, so, let's say you have a terminal illness. So, terminally ill. So you need a certified physician as having an illness of chronic condition, which you can reasonably be expected to result in death in 24 months or less. So you can request money from your death benefit.
Okay.
Yep. Chronic illness, what is chronic illness? So you can't do 2 out of the 6 daily living things. You may be cognitively impaired or physically impaired. So if you can't bathe yourself, incontinence, dressing, eating, toilet, transferring, if you have 2 of the 3, you can request your death benefit in advance. Critical illness, aorta surgery, anemia, aplastic anemia, cancer, cystic fibrosis, ALS, end-stage renal failure, heart attack, heart valve replacement, major organ transplant, motor neuron disease, stroke and sudden cardiac arrest, you can request part of your death benefit in advance to help you pay for these things. And the last one is the critical injury, coma, paralysis, severe burns, traumatic brain injury, you can request it. And any, yes, sir.
All those things that you said that you can request, will that diminish the value of the insurance?
Yeah, so actually, you'll be cashing it in advance. That's what you'll be doing. Instead of waiting until, because you may need it now. You know, your folks, you and your folks may need it now to pay the bills and cover things. So this allows you to have, instead of them waiting and being in a financial negative disposition, this allows you to get that money that you need now so you can be properly taken care of. Okay?
So it's not like a loan, you just
No.
cashing it out and that's the end of that?
Yep, and that's it. That's it.
I've heard that a lot of times you get several permanent insurance policies and you plan out your retirement using those.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that you all recommend to some of your clients?
Yeah. So based on what your objective or your goals are, then we sit down and we figure out the best plan of action for you. And thank you for that question. We figure out the best plan of action for you, whether you need this particular policy to cover this, or in this particular policy to cover this. You may have 2 or 3 different policies or 1, depending on your overall goal. Okay?
Quick question. Those companies that you see advertised on television, buying companies that they advertise about buying your policies, buying old people's policies, someone said, oh, we were retiring and we didn't know, and so we were able to sell our policy. What do they give these people for their policy? I mean, what are their policies really worth?
I have no idea what they give those folks. I really don't know.
Okay.
It's called a hot mess. I really don't know.
The reason why I say because there are some seniors listening to that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's why
they're drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's why.
Yeah, that would be the colonial pen.
Yes.
No, that's different.
Yeah, they do.
But that's
Is
about
that
99.
Colonial pen with Jonathan's a different. That's a whole
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't blow up.
Now, is that burial insurance?
Is that what?
Burial.
Burial insurance. It's just coverage. They're just offering some type of coverage. I could just tell you a quick story. I'm gonna just tell you a quick story. So my grandparents, years ago when I was 10, And I'm only 20 now. So, when I was 10, they got me a life insurance policy. It was a permanent or a whole life insurance policy. However, they bought it from a casualty and property insurance company. I'm not gonna tell you the name, but I looked at the policy recently, like actually a couple months ago, and again, they got it for me when I was 10. So that's quite some years now. The policy, when I looked at it, the cash value was only $2,500.
What?
Yeah. $2,500. I smashed that joint up, rolled it over to a higher yielding account. But what we don't know will hurt us. They did what they thought was best. Right. And I appreciate the $2,500 because it allowed me to fund my other policy. However, had they known what, oh gosh, had they known, me, my sister, and my cousin, we would have been in a totally different position right now.
1%?
Huh?
The 1%?
The 1%, yes.
That's probably when the insurance guy used to come around to your house.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay, so I'm hearing that I have a niece, and she's speaking to her siblings. She's trying to talk them into buying a policy for their parents. Is that allowed?
Can she buy a policy?
Repeat the question.
Good question.
My niece is speaking to her siblings, and she's trying to talk them into buying a life insurance policy for their parents. Is that allowed? Do insurance companies allow that?
Yeah. It has to be a lateral move. It can't be like sibling to sibling, but it can go up and down. Like up and down, like mother, child, and so on.
Can I get one of my ex-husband?
You have to have insurable interest. It has to be insurable interest.
Yeah, if you're insurable, I have an interest. I'm sorry. It's all good.
You gonna call them? Oh, okay. So my 3 kids, right? They're young. The youngest is like 21 years old, right? They just started working. They just got into the workforce, finished school and all that. Like I said, they ain't got nothing. So if I were to encourage them to take out a life insurance, they should be doing it. Would it be permanent or term?
So I'll tell you what I did for my children. Okay? So I took out, because now I know what I know, I took out a permanent life insurance for my 2 boys, all right? And I looked at and I gave them an increasing death benefits. So that means that annually, as I put money in to the policy, as the policy grows cash value-wise, my death benefit grows as well. So therefore, as they earn more, they'll be able to put in more money. So being you're giving me the face. So for a universal life policy, you can do that. You have a flexible premium as far as how much you can pay or how much you're able to pay. You have a minimum, you have a maximum for universal life insurance policies. For whole life policies, you can't do that, okay, for whole life policies. But for universal life policies, you can do that. You have a flexible premium. So your monthly premium, let's say, is $200. What if you don't have the $200? Maybe you wanna give them 15. You can do that. You have a minimum that you can pay, and again, a maximum that you can pay, and you have wiggle room in between. So for my kids, I'm paying what they need to be paid for them to be good when they turn 40. So I'm dumping in cash, I'm dumping in the cash. And I have a universal insurance policy, and it's a permanent policy, so they'll have that cash value. They'll have access to it. The cash, as well as I will have the cash, access to the cash, because I'm the owner of it. So to answer your question, your kids, you can do that. Yes.
Can you take out a policy on a over 18 child?
Yes. Yep. Because my oldest son, he's 20, he just turned 25.
How's that possible and you just turned 20?
She adopted.
But yeah.
She said slight over age.
Yeah. But yeah, for an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, yeah, you can take out a policy on them. But they will have notification of that policy, so they'll have to sign off on it. Yeah.
So if I take it out on them, can they switch it and let them pay for it?
You can. Yeah, you can change the.
And leave me as the beneficiary?
You can change. You can definitely change.
Because at that time, she takes it out, she's the owner.
She's the owner.
Then she'll give it to them.
Yes, she can do that, yeah.
Right? And since I'm the beneficiary, I'm still the owner.
Yes.
I always say numbers make sense to me.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking to take out a permanent life insurance policy, I want the cash value, or I want it to be $100,000 policy. So then when my child gets ready to go to college in 6 years, 4 years, they can take a loan against this policy. How much would I need to have either paid into it, or how much of a policy will I need if I know her tuition is going to be $25,000 a year?
Gotcha.
Numbers make sense. I can.
No, I got you. I can bring it up for you. But the system that we use calculates all that.
Okay.
So if you tell me, in 5 years, I need this amount for my cash value, then I will set that up, and it will tell me how much your death benefit should be for that particular policy.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Now, if I take out a policy on, let's say, a child that I have, and let's say it's a one that has a cash value attached to it, when they turn whatever the legal age is and they get that notice of that you have a policy out there, are they able to take out the cash value?
No, you're still the owner.
I'm still gonna be the owner.
Yeah, it has to be in writing. You will have to go to the insurance company. Just like I had to go to the insurance company after my grandparents passed away, I had to go to them and give them all the documentation, and it was rolled over to me. But while you're still living, it would have to be a mutual thing.
Okay, so it could happen that once they're notified that I took out this policy on them, and they're notified that this policy is there, they would have to agree to allow me to still be the owner and beneficiary of that policy.
You're still the owner. You'll still be the owner.
I would still be the owner.
Yeah.
But they would get a notice that I have this policy on them?
Depending on the insurance company.
Is that, okay, that's what I'm trying to.
Oh, yeah, depending on the insurance company. I think we pretty much did everything. I'm just gonna skip on. There we go. All right, so if you have any questions, my name is Kenesha Preston Smith. There's my website. There's my email. If you want to, you can scan this QR code, and it will take you to my website. And if you want to make an appointment, you can. or if you just have more information, feel free to check out the site. And that's it. Also, just one last thing. There was a question about should I get a will or should I get a trust? I do have a little handout. I didn't make a lot of copies. Y'all surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be so many people. Oh, can you start right here? Because I think she had the question. So it's just a quick little thing just to let you know or help guide you whether you need a will or a trust. And then based on your numbers, you decide, oh, I just need a will, or oh, I'm probably going to need a trust. And that's it.
So you're saying depending on your your estate, that will determine if you should get a will or or a trust?
Just
that was one of my
your assets. Your assets. And I apologize, I didn't make enough copies because, like I said, y'all surprised me.
I can make more.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay.
Your business cards are on the table.
All right. Oh, business cards are on the table. We have a lot of things going on today. I hope y'all really enjoyed the information. I'm done. I hope I wasn't long-winded. I do apologize. All right.
But you're out of where?
I'm sorry?
You're out of what location?
Burlington Township.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Another great presentation. Can we just give both of them? And just to keep in mind, folks, not all insurance companies are created equal. So if you know that you have a policy that you might not have looked at for a long period of time, you just want to kind of go over it, or just kind of see if there's a different type of offer that can be available to you, you have an agent right here that you can always call. They can review the policy with you. If you want to keep what you have, perfect. If you want to change it, that's available to you as well. Okay, so great information. As we're getting ready to wrap things up, and I thank you guys for your patience. I know we went over a little bit of our time. We started a little bit late. That's okay. I think it was well worth it. There was a lot of information that was shared today, a lot to digest and process. As Kenisha's handing out some handouts for you guys, I'm just overwhelmed by just everything, the great questions that you guys asked. I learned a lot, some things I was familiar with, but I learned a lot today and a lot to take away. One of them is just being mindful that it's never too late to create generational wealth for your loved ones, okay? We're a little behind as a people when it comes to those types of things. You have a lot of other ethnicities who are already starting their children off young, knowing some of the things that we're learning today. So just have that conversation when you're sitting down at the table, having dinner or after church. Pull your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews and say, hey, let's talk about these things. Because one day as you get older, you're going to have to know these things, right? So just making sure you're having that conversation with them when you're talking about the game and everything else. Have that conversation with them.
Yeah, Brother Buzz, one of the things, and to Rhonda's point about talking about generational wealth, and I think one of the other components to that, because we both have one daughter, is teaching them, because it's bad if we leave them such a gold mine of just cash and things, and they do not know how to use it, because I've seen that happen too, where the one child just simply went through it because they were not thinking about tomorrow, but what's happening right now, and so the generational wealth stopped right there. So I think it's important too, the component to add that we start to teach them along the way right now, so that when they do come into that, that pot of gold, that they'll know what to do with it.
Absolutely.
Keep in mind and be on the lookout that here at Tabernacle we're going to have something for the youth, so then they will know how to. So it is not just for Tabernacle kids. So keep on the lookout. You'll hear Pastor Jones announcing it, that he's having someone come in and talk especially to the youth on how to do their investments.
October 21st. October 21st.
I don't know who did it, but I actually saw this site on this class on the Nexo app. And that's how I knew. Well, I put it on Facebook, I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know who posted it, but whoever did it, right. Okay, so if you did it, that would be, cool if you do that.
Absolutely, wonderful, wonderful. What we'll do to endorse the next door app. So any type of events, if you know contractors, certain services within the Burlington County community, you can post it up for free, and other people can know what's going on. So it's called the Next Door app.
Next door app.
Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to just open it up a little bit before we wrap it up with a couple of announcements. I want to start off with one of our presenters, Elronda. She may have some things coming up that you might want to document and take note of.
Good afternoon once again. A lot of you already know that I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated, but I'm also a member of the Links Incorporated Rancocas Valley chapter. And in the next couple of months, we're going to be having an estate planning 2. And it's going to be a webinar where we're going to talk about trust, we're going to talk about wills, and the next step in preparing yourself and preparing your finances to not only for when you pass away, but for today. So what I'll do is I'll send the information to Mr. Bugs, and he can put it on your website.
Absolutely.
And then I also promised him that I will give 10 free consultations to persons who are here today. So you could give your name to him, and I'll take the top 10, and then I'll have you all come in, and we could do a one-on-one consultation, and you can kind of decide what you want to do next. So those are my 2 announcements. Thank you.
Just a couple of announcements on our end. Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Kappa Upsilon Sigma chapter is hosting a couple of events. One on October 14th at 6 p.m. We're hosting Luther Relives Cabaret at the Crescent Shine located here in West Hampton. If you're interested in coming out, it's going to be a great time. We have a flyer on the table. Brother Chris is holding it up. You can use the QR scan code to get more information about that. And, we're looking to have a great time there. Also on October 21st at 1 p.m. at the Willingboro Library, once again, our chapter is hosting a first-time home buyers workshop. So if you know anybody who's interested in purchasing a home, someone who's renting, whatever the case may be, there's going to be a lot of great information being shared, and that's going to be presented by our very own Ms. Kanisha, who's going to be talking about that. She's also a real estate agent, and she's going to be providing a lot of good information on that day. So keep those dates in mind. If there's nothing else, anybody have questions, anything before we wrap things up?
Let me just say one more thing about the financial workshop. It is also on October 21st, but it's at 10 to 1. So you go to us 10 to 1, then you go to him.
Right on. There you go. There you go.
It's here. It's at TPC, but it's for youth. If you have any youth that we're trying to teach them financial responsibility.
That's the next generation. We have to plant that seed. Starting early. That's right.
Huh?
What age? What
You
age?
and some other kids. It's from 7th to 12th grade. 7th to 12th grade.
But you won't kick anybody out.
No.
It's like the earlier the better. Listen, if our young people can learn these raps and these songs, they can learn about financial literacy. Right? So we don't want to underestimate our kids.
You got a 6th grader with a snow shovel?
There you go.
Really need it.
That's why you're learning about entrepreneurship. I know for November, we're putting together a youth entrepreneurship website, a workshop for our Sigma Beta Club that's coming up. But the goal is to eventually kind of branch it out to the youth in our community. But we're starting with our young men and women, so we'll keep you posted on that as well. Awesome, awesome. If there's nothing else left to say, I want to thank everybody once again for coming out today. We want to thank our guests once again for a beautiful job.
Thank you on behalf of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated Kappa Upsilon Sigma chapter. I want to thank you to Tabernacle Baptist Church for allowing us to host this here for our community. Hope you learned something. We'll mill around a little bit to answer some questions, but thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You wanna pray out? Just gonna pray out. Our Father and our God, we thank you for these, your children who are seeking knowledge, and we pray that we were able to provide them with information that will help them to make life decisions easier and better. We pray that you will grant us traveling mercies, keep us safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. Just continue to watch over us, guide us, and direct us, and we'll always give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise that we can muster. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please help yourself. There's any coffee and what's left of yourself.
I wanna get on my list. Is that already?
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to mention also, one more thing before we wrap it up. Both of our presenters are offering free consultation. So, okay, wonderful. I wasn't sure. So, that's it. Here you go. Sign your name on the paper that's here in the front. Thank you.
You got that part right. My friend is Rhonda. I'm looking for all.